At the currently ongoing Beyond Epic tournament, Secret to play against OG for the final slot in the upper bracket. And this is this best of 3. I'm going to cover this game right now, and then the next one is going to come out tomorrow, a separate video on that. So in this game we're going to focus on Nisha's Visage, who is going to be starting off in the offlane.
Lessons that cannot be unlearned.
So the reason he's starting in the offlane, even though Nisha is usually the mid player, is just to avoid this very bad matchup of Underlord versus Monkey King. That's pretty much an unplayable matchup, so they instead put Underlord into the mid lane to face up against Terrorblade, which is a pretty good matchup for Underlord. And then Visage is not necessarily going to win against Monkey King, but at least it's going to be okay. At least it's not going to get destroyed. So Nisha not joining this lane. He's gone for Blightstone, Triple Branch, and a Fairy Fire, a build that's going to allow him to trade right clicks quite well. Also gives him a whole bunch of bonus damage so that he can last hit reasonably well. The Blightstone is kind of a double-edged sword in last hitting, because yes, it increases your damage, but also often you want to actually do prep hits on a target where you hit it sort of once or twice to get in the right range to then kill the creep. But if you do that with Blightstone, the subsequent attacks of creeps and enemy units are also going to do more damage to the creeps, so it doesn't help out the last hitting nearly as much as it does with regular trading. So Techies is kind of annoying at the start. He can always use that blast off and then eventually deny himself, and this way he can just return back to base and come back with full HP and mana, pick up some items for his carry, and it can be a bit of a nuisance here. And that's also why here in this lane Nisha is going to actually get a Pony Gravequest Cloak level 2. Normally, almost always you would see in the side lanes people going for Soul Assumption, even at level 1. Here in this case it's not as useful here because you can't really trade effectively against the enemy. It's more about just using Grave Chill so that Monkey King is going to have a harder time to get off those Jingle Mastery stacks. And then this Gravequest Cloak helps a lot against Techies with his Blast Off, and also just the attacks Monkey King doing quite a lot of damage. Gravequest Cloak is also useful against that. But normally the way side lane Visage works is that you put a lot of emphasis on Soul Assumption, and this is a very powerful laning ability. It does so much damage. It's 245 damage with a level 1 nuke if you get 3 charges up, and it's a 4-second cooldown. So this ability can be extremely powerful, but it's very mana hungry, so if you go for this ability you need plenty of mana in the early game. And also against Monkey King it's a bit difficult because he can actually dodge it with his Mischief, so it's I think quite reasonable here to not skill Soul Assumption at the start here in this particular lane. So even though he's adjusted the skill build, he's still kind of struggling in this lane. If you look at the last instant denies, you see that Monkey King is doing a bit better, but not by that much. So in that department he's doing fine, but the problem is just that they're just being out-traded by these heroes. And you can see Monkey and Techies here just a bit ahead in terms of the experience. So this lane is fine for now, but eventually there's going to be some problems here. So normally you want to hold off on buying boots on Visage, oftentimes going for a Dominator first and then getting boots. But against Monkey King it makes sense to go for early boots. It's important not to be run down by him. And so with all the movements we get some boots and from this Grave Chill, he manages to not give the Monkey King sacks except by using his Boundless Strike. But Yapso is still very low and is having a difficult time and feeds First Blood now. But now it's 5 minutes and Nisha is positioned quite well here and is going to be able to take both of these bounty runes. And actually just going to take one, and the second one can be taken by our friend Yapsa here. And also sending himself out some extra regen. He's getting a Clarity, a Mango, and then a Ring of Region, which is going to build into Dominator. Another deny here from techies, and that just makes the lane so hard to play because techies can just always come back with full HP, full mana, and also bring topsness items. So this lane is not going too well. You can see Visage just level 4, Monkey King is already level 5, Yapso also behind Notel in terms of levels. And this lane is just not getting really better now that the Monkey King has his phase boots, and as well as that War Venom here. It can be quite tough, and so actually what you can see is it's going to rotate into the mid lane. It's just really important on Visage, especially as a core, not to be behind on levels by too much. You just need at level 6, which will then open up farming abilities for you. And then once you're level 6, you really want a level 12, so you actually get level 2 familiars that actually do a lot of damage. So you're very mana hungry, and you can't afford to stay in this losing lane for too long. So he's now going up against that Terrorblade, and it's not like he can outlane this Terrorblade, but Terrorblade doesn't really want to sit in this lane. He just wants to push out this lane and then hit the jungle. So Visage is just fine here, trading farm, and Underlord now up to the top. He's level 7 against a level 5 Monkey King, which is now playable. If you're an even level, of course, Monkey King will dominate you. But if you're 2 levels ahead, you can definitely play this lane. And you can just sort of farm some jungle camps here, push out the wave, and not really have to deal with Monkey King too much. We talked earlier about the problems of last hitting with Blightstone. And what he's going to do here is a very advanced move. And he's actually going to drop his Blightstone here. He can hit this creep once, pick it up again, and then the creep is just in the right range here so they can get the last hit here. So very nice play by Nisha, and he's also just going to abduct this creep, otherwise he wouldn't get the last hit here, and now it's out of tower range, he can easily get the last hit. And even sort of maneuvering here to the side where you can get some of the experience from Terrorblade's jungle camp here. And so he's just going to sit here passively in the lane until he gets his level 6, and then he's going to sit in the lane a bit more. But once you have those familiars, you can also hit the nearby jungle camps. That's going to speed up your farming a lot. But still, mostly just stay in the lane. You want to get that level 12 and only rotate for important occasions. One such important occasion is the 10-minute mark, when the bounty runes come up and also the outpost needs to be contested. So he moves up here, they find Monkey King, and Nisha still hasn't got a point in Soul Assumption because he just needed those grave chills for farming. But they're still going to be able to chase down this Monkey King and eventually get the kill here. Of course, it would have been much easier with the level in Soul Assumption, but they do get the kill in the end, and they secure the outpost here at top, and they're going to get both those bounty runes with Yapso claiming those. Nisha is pushing the top wave, and down below there's a fight going on, and it's kind of difficult to join these kind of fights because your birds don't teleport with you, but he's going to come in here anyway, and they want to turn around this fight, and they do actually win. But honestly, this TP, they would have won the fight anyway, and now his birds are kind of caught out. So I think in those situations, I think it's just better as Visage just stay atop and secure that tower, and just leave your team to fend for themselves. And now, instead of returning to mid lane, he's going to let Yapso and his Void Spirit have the lane for a bit. Void Spirit also is a very XP hungry hero, so it's nice for him to be able to sit in a lane for a little bit. And you see both supports here, Yapso and No-Tail, just chilling in the mid lane, trying to trade some farm here, while their cores are jungling. And it's just generally a thing that these cores are much better at jungling, but they're only slightly better at farming waves. So it's often, if you don't want to fight, you don't want to make plays happen, it's often at this stage of the game good to just have supports sitting in lanes and soaking up that experience, while their cores use their superior farm and levels to clear those jungle camps and get almost as much farm as they would also farming lanes. Secret of pushing the mid lane with an Ogre Frostmage here was you want to be able to hand out those ice armors, especially in melee heroes like Ursa and Underlord. But he's kind of forgetting about that a little bit here, which can be something that can happen in the heat of the moment. So Matsu gets run down here, and as Visage, you just want to stay out of that circle. That circle is death, you don't want to be in there. So they TP out with an Underlord, but now they get their back to defend their tier 2 tower, and they commit meta. So now Secret's gonna have to react quick to defend and just get off a really nice Pit of Malice here with the Firestorm. And yeah, Nisha can just do so much damage here with those birds and those soul assumptions. Has to be careful not to lose that bird though. Almost lost that, but not quite. And so now they of course want to go for that tower. It's just really important to finish off those towers when you're playing against Treant, because otherwise you can just heal them back up endlessly. So they're trying really hard, but it's not necessarily easy. But the enemy have kind of given up on that tower, so they get it. And this is now level 10 for Nisha, and he is not getting that level 10 talent because it's rather low impact. You really want to get those extra points in Gravekeeper's Cloak to make yourself and your birds much tankier. It's much more important than any of these two talents. And after the Dominator, which is a very standard item on Visage, he's actually opting to go for a Rod of Aghs, which is quite unusual on Visage. So the thinking here is that they're low on disable. They need disable so that this Ursa can really fulfill its function. They have some disable, like Puck has his ultimate, and Void Spirit has some disable. Visage has a little bit of disable with his birds, and there's a Pit of Malice, but not really a lot of reliable disable. So it's nice to have this long range disable from Rod of Aghs. And also note that the Terrorblade is going for Ancient Yasha, so it won't be able to dispel that root unless he has BKB. Whereas most Terrorblades go for Manta, which of course can dispel the root from Rod of Aghs. That's another reason why Aghs is a good item here. But yeah, that's definitely the exception to the rule. You usually don't want to go for Aghs. That's more of a situational item that's good in this particular game, not an item you want in most games. Visage is finally level 12, so he has those level 2 birds, and this now means you want to fight. This is Visage's biggest power spike, so if possible you want to take a fight here, but this is not necessarily the best position to take that fight. And he also wants to have a good combat creep, and the one he settles on here is the Setter Banisher, which is, like the Rod of Aghs, a rather unusual choice, not something you want in most games. But here in this particular game, there's so many things you can dispel with this creep. So this offers a basic dispel that you can use on allies and enemies, and there's so many things you can dispel. For techies, you can dispel the silence and the root. The silence from Blast Off and the root from Stasis Trap. You can dispel the Sticky Napalm from Batrider, and especially against Treant Protector, it's such a strong creep. You can dispel Leech Seed, you can dispel Living Armor, you can even dispel his ultimate, so this is like the ultimate counter to Treant Protector. And that's one of the things that makes Dominator so strong. It just gives you so much flexibility. There's so many different creeps you can take that are good in different situations. And this is not a creep you would usually go for, but in this particular game it's just really excellent and offers a lot of value. Also, of course, just the disable is nice. It's a nice low as well, if you're low on disable. Although, of course, there's better creeps for disable. What you have to keep in mind, though, with that creep is that it's purely a fighting creep. It offers basically no damage, so it doesn't help you farm, it only helps you fight. So if you want a farming creep, you'd rather go with an Alpha Wolf or a Hellbear Smasher. These creeps just give you so much more farming ability. So he's desperately trying to take down this tower so it doesn't get healed up by the Treant, but he's taking a bit too much damage. Has to back off slightly here, but now with Ursa coming in, they can definitely claim this tower. And meanwhile, Secret are trying to make things happen at the bot lane, but Thompson gets caught out. TPs come in from everyone, and Thompson fails to use the stun properly and gets killed. Fight brewing in the mid lane, but Underlord just gonna taxi out of there, and they lose Poppy, but no big losses here, and that's one of the big strong suits of Underlord. Another big strong suit of Underlord is if you're playing together with a Visage, you can actually go for an Aghanims, and what this does is it will give you bonus damage as an aura that applies to heroes and creep heroes nearby, so that they get half the damage that you get from your from the temporary part of Atrophy Aura. So if you have, like, let's say 80 temporary damage from Atrophy Aura, which is very realistic with Aghanims, even if you don't get any hero kills, that means 40 bonus damage to all heroes and creep heroes nearby. Now you might say that's not very much, and yeah, sure, if you give like 40 damage to an Ursa, it's not actually that much, but it also gives 40 bonus damage to each of these familiars. And these familiars attack really quickly. You can see every 0.24 seconds if the Grave Chill is active, otherwise every 0.4 seconds. So that's incredibly fast, and if you give them just 40 bonus damage each, that's huge. And like, if you win a fight, you can easily have like 200 bonus damage or even more on your Underlord, and that means 100 bonus damage to your familiars, which is just completely insane. But enough about that combo, let's talk about this team fight. So you have Nisha here properly attacking that Batrider and then moving away from him. Those familiars can be dropped here. He's very slow on that, and he's losing them both. He kind of panicked here, trying to save his own hero. But yeah, he's gonna die, but the team fight is won. They committed a loss here, and just with that Aegis and this just very powerful Ursa at this stage of the game, it's difficult for OG to fight here, and they get run down. Mid one trying to play his way out of this, but it's not going to be easy, and eventually they do catch him, and this is a hugely won team fight here for OG and puts them in a decent lead here, 4k up now onto the enemy team. As Nisha is pushing at the top wave, carefully, his team go for a smoke and try to clear out their own jungle, see if they can maybe find this Monkey King. And Puppy tries for the Dream Call here, but doesn't quite hit the Monkey King, and so now OG wants to fight. Nisha, meanwhile, is still pushing in with his familiars, while his hero is joining the fight slowly, but he doesn't have TP up, so he has to walk. And meanwhile, just using his familiars to attack here. And this fight is going fairly well. You saw Thompson commit his BKB and his ultimate, but didn't really get anything. The secret lineup could just walk away here, and so they used all these ultimates and they're not really finding anything here. Nisha now finally arriving, his birds still pushing in, and in these fights you just want to stay on the outside. You don't actually want to walk in here. This is pretty bad, taking a lot of damage here, not really getting too much done, and his birds now still pushing in, but he has to be careful. Now the birds are the only thing in range, so they get attacked by the tower. He loses one bird, which is quite bad, since he doesn't have resummon yet. So even though Nisha maybe not playing that fight perfectly, the fight still goes really well for Secret as a whole, as this Ursa is just so powerful right now. And this Terror Blade, even though is more farmed, doesn't really do as much. Xayah is now finally queued up the Aghanims. Unfortunately though, he's not actually going to go for Aghanims. They decide against that, but I really would like to see it. And I can read right now, we're going to see Aghanims eventually in this game, but it's going to be a while, and it's going to be pretty much at the end of the game. But I really wish you would see it right now. Also see Shiva's Guard on Visage, which I don't quite understand. I think I'd much rather just see an AC on Visage. Would really boost his familiar's damage output and just give everyone some armor, not just himself. Armor, of course, is very important here because of all that physical damage coming out of Terror Blade and Monkey King. But I'd much rather see that armor in the form of an AC. And they're actually eventually going to go for an AC on Underlord, but I'd much rather see Underlord get that Aghanims and then Visage go for the AC. That I think seems to make a lot more sense. But unfortunately Secret think otherwise, and given that they're the strongest team in Dota at the moment, I'm inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt. But just for my own selfish gain, I would really like to see that Aghanims Underlord plus Visage combination. Note all the Lotus Orbs, by the way. They have Lotus Orb here on Underlord, they have Lotus Orb on the way here on Yapso, and then Poppy also has his Lotus Orb on his Puck. So Lotus Orb is just a really strong item here against the Terrorblade with his Sunder, also just dispelling things, as we talked about before, is very powerful here against this lineup. So it's a really powerful item. Also, of course, gives you a bunch of armor against the physical damage. So just all around a great item here. And look at this initiation that's going to come out of Puppy. So Monkey King briefly reels himself here, and then Puppy immediately jumps forward, uses Dream Call as Monkey King is jumping, so he gets disabled and is almost dead by the time he gets to BKB and ult. So they do catch Zai here. Zai is going to die, but everyone else gets to bail. And with Zai buying back, they can take this team fight. As Nisha, you're going to be very careful here. Stay in the edge of the fight. Don't go into deep. Matu getting a kill here. Now Sumail is in trouble. He gets rooted up and he wants to use that Sunder, but he is trying to get Sunder onto Puppy. He evades it, but now Zai using his Lotus Orb to nullify that Sunder, and so he dies, and it's a very easy fight here for Secrets. After getting that kill, they can immediately go into Roshan, and they use that Rod of Aethos to break the Lincolns so they can Grave Chill Rosh and speed that up. You can also, of course, use your Soul Assumption, but that just costs more mana. So they take Roshan, and now they have this Aegis here on Ursa, they have a Cheese and Underlord, and then Nisha is going to be working towards a Hex, which of course is a very powerful item on pretty much any hero in late game, but I really would like to see him go for that AC, and Zai is still thinking about that that Aghanims, but I mean the items he's gone for are really strong as well. We saw how much Lotus Orb did in the last fight. Crimson Gun also an excellent item against Terrorblade in particular, so I can't really complain about the itemization here. Secret have pushed all the other towers, and now finally they're going here to the bottom lane, to the dead lane, and finishing the job here. But really the other towers are more important. It's more important to take the other towers in the other lanes, and then finally they can go to the top lane, or bottom lane rather. See a big fight here going on. Zai once again gets jumped here, but he has so much armor that it's actually very difficult for Monkey King to kill him. So the cheese survives and still providing his aura to everyone. Nisha comes in, but he's a bit far forward here and just taking so much damage instances that his birds are very vulnerable here. He really summoned them too, so now he needs to make sure they don't die. Matu gets killed here this time, so even though it's a 3-for-3 exchange, it's actually very favorable towards OG because they kept their carry alive, whereas the Ursa is dead, as is the Underlord, as is the Visage, so all three cores dying on the Secret, whereas here it's at least one core surviving. Here's the next attempt at reclaiming the dead lane. They have a smoke here on Void Spirit and Ursa, and actually find Terrorblades. He immediately BKBs and runs. So trying to fight their way out of this, but there's nothing going on here with Ursa being protected by that Lotus Orb here from Void Spirit. He can easily get the kill without being sundered, and yeah, that's the two major cores down from AOG, and Secret will be easily able to claim this tower, and then probably go even further because there's 60 seconds without those main cores. But instead they're just going to spread out because both waves are pushing in, so they're just going to take the farm advantage and secure the win in the long run. One item that's kind of missing here from Nisha is a Solar Crest. Solar Crest is such a strong item on Visage, and it's just really powerful to put that on Ursa, giving him that extra movement speed, the extra armor and attack speed. And yeah, you have lots of attack speed with overpower, but you don't always have overpower up, so the 80 attack speed is actually really useful for Ursa. And then also just Underlord giving us an extra armor is going to make him even more tanky. And once he has a couple of stacks up, once he gets a couple of kills in a team fight, or at least is nearby for a couple of kills, this Underlord actually deals a lot of damage, so giving him extra attack speed is also very powerful. So, to be honest, I'm not loving the item build that Nisha is going for. I can sort of understand the Rod of Aghs, but the Shiva Scat is, I think, a bit questionable, and then also just like Scythe, of course, always strong in the late game, but I'd really like to see that Solar Crest. Another fight going on here. Zai thinks about teleporting out, but then thinks better of it. You want to get out of that ultimate, so Nisha gets to safety, and as soon as that is the case, he could actually resummon his birds. A bit slow on that, but now he gets the resummon, so they kill off Monkey King, and that is a complete team vibe. And from here on out, Secrets are just in complete control of the game. So high ground push drain coming in, just killing all the buildings, and yeah, you can see how much damage this Underlord has. And if you had an Aghanim, these buildings would fall so much quicker. Like these birds would have like double or triple that damage. Unfortunately though, still no Aghanims. Now as an AC, I'd much rather see that AC on Visage and the Aghanims here. But he's going to get an Aghanims here from Roshan. And with that, the birds are going to have a much better time. So Aghanims is claimed here, and immediately teleporting into the bottom lane, find Thompson, but Thompson barely manages to get out of it with his BKB. So good on him, but that's not going to save them in the long run with this 35k advantage. Like that third Roshan is just so big. So before that third Roshan, it was like 25k or something, and now it's like 36k. It's just such a huge net worth swing with that Aghanims coming in here. Let's slow this down a little bit for the final push, so we can fully appreciate the glory that is Aghanims Underlord with Visage Familiars. So right now, not very much damage here, just 50, but still 25 bonus damage. You'll take that on the Familiars. That's a nice chunk of bonus damage. But as soon as a couple of kills come in here, it's gonna go so much higher. So they're just slowly sieging this base, not committing too deeply. Unfortunately, losing one Familiar there. It's a bit sloppy, but he can resummon here. And yeah, they're just sort of waiting here for the enemy to do something. They committed the meta, so they can just wait this out and then finish the game. So now Puppy jumps in here. Meta actually still up, but they just managed to get the kill anyway. And now it's up to 170 bonus damage here, 215 bonus damage. So that's these birds now officially do triple damage. And Visage, of course, wants to stay out of that circle. You want to keep up the aura. And yeah, now the birds. Why do you land the birds? Just kill the buildings. Kill the buildings. 187 bonus damage. Now we're talking. And now it's GG. So Secret take the first victory here in this best of 3 series. Tomorrow I'm going to bring you the second game, where we're going to look at Matumba Man on his signature Lycan. And if you don't want to miss that, please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you get notified. And if you're from the future, the game here on the screen is going to take you to that game too, but if you're stuck here with me in the boring present, you're going to get a different game, which is nevertheless going to be probably highly enjoyable. So go click on that, and all is willing, I'll see you there.